In the quiet, pre-dawn darkness of a 1950s Irish town, a young woman named Eilis Lacey slips out of her house. She is pretty in a way she doesn't seem to realize, her face open and honest. Her older sister, Rose, rushes after her, barefoot in the cold, pressing a piece of bread and jam into her hand, a small, loving gesture that speaks volumes about their bond. Eilis's life in Enniscorthy is one of quiet limitation. She works Sundays at a grocery shop run by the perpetually disapproving Miss Kelly, a woman who wields her small power with petty cruelty, favoring wealthy customers and humiliating the timid. Eilis yearns for something more, a life beyond the predictable confines of her town, where the most exciting prospect for her beautiful friend Nancy is catching the eye of a boy from the local rugby club. At a local dance, Eilis watches as Nancy nervously waits for George Sheridan. The dance hall is a microcosm of their limited world. Girls line one wall and boys, slick with hair oil, line the other. When George finally asks Nancy to dance, Eilis slips away, her departure unnoticed by the sniggering rugby boys. Her own future, however, is about to change dramatically. During a tense family dinner, it's revealed that Rose has arranged for Eilis to go to America. A priest Rose knew, Father Flood, has sponsored her, found her a job, and secured a visa. Her mother worries about practical things, like what clothes she'll wear, but Rose understands the real stakes. Later, as they pack Eilis's meager belongings, Rose confesses, "I can't buy you a future. I can't buy you the kind of life you need." This journey isn't just a trip, it's a sacrifice, a chance for Eilis to have the life Rose cannot. The day of her departure is a painful, quiet affair. At the dock, surrounded by weeping families, Eilis, Rose, and their mother hold back their tears. In a moment of unbearable sadness, Rose and her mother turn and walk away before the ship even leaves, unable to watch it go. Eilis is truly alone. On board the massive passenger liner, she finds her tiny, windowless cabin in third class. Her glamorous, world-weary cabin mate, Georgina, immediately establishes dominance, claiming the bottom bunk. The journey begins in misery. A rough night at sea, combined with a meal of gristly mutton stew, leaves Eilis horribly seasick. She discovers the shared bathroom has been locked by the women in the next cabin, leaving her utterly stranded. In a moment of pure desperation and self-hatred, she is sick in a mop bucket in the corridor. She's found the next morning by Georgina, who, having been kicked out of first class, is now sharing in the misery. Taking pity on Eilis, Georgina uses a nail file to pick the bathroom lock, then barricades the door with her trunk, declaring, "It won't be very comfortable, but at least it's ours now." This small act of rebellion forges a bond between them. Georgina becomes her guide, teaching her the rules of survival for entering America. She helps Eilis with her makeup and clothes, advising her on how to present herself to the immigration officials. "Think like an American," Georgina tells her. "You have to know where you're going." As Eilis steps through the gate into the blinding American sun, she is no longer just a girl from a small town in Ireland. She is an immigrant walking into an unknown future. Eilis's new life begins in a Brooklyn brownstone, a boarding house for Irish girls run by the discerning Mrs. Kehoe. The dinner table is a battlefield of subtle digs and social jockeying between the other residents, the glamorous Patty and Diana, the severe Miss McAdam, and the sharp-tongued Sheila. Eilis is quiet, an observer in this new world. Her job at Bartocci's, a beautiful upscale department store, is equally overwhelming. Her supervisor, Miss Fortini, is strict and demanding, pushing Eilis to be more engaging with customers, a task that feels impossible for the shy, reserved girl. The days blur into a lonely routine of work, solitary lunches at a diner and quiet dinners at the boarding house. The vibrant, noisy world of Brooklyn only serves to amplify her profound sense of isolation. A letter from Rose finally arrives, filled with mundane news from home that reduces Eilis to uncontrollable tears. Her homesickness becomes a physical illness, a crushing weight that she cannot escape. At work, her despair is so palpable that Ms. Fortini sends her to the staff room to compose herself. There, she is found by Father Flood. He sees her pain and understands it immediately. He tells her that Homesickness will pass, but more importantly, he gives her a purpose. He has enrolled her in a night class for bookkeeping at Brooklyn College. You'll get a good qualification at the end of it, he says, giving her not just something to do, but a path forward. The classes are difficult, filled with concepts she's never encountered, but for the first time, Eilis feels a spark of engagement. She begins to find her footing. As a way to give back, she volunteers with Father Flood and Mrs. Kehoe to serve Christmas dinner at the parish hall for the lonely old Irishmen who built the city's tunnels and bridges. It's a haunting sight, a hall full of men who have lost their connection to home. One man's mournful song in Irish brings the room to a standstill, and in his voice, Eilis hears the collective sorrow of a displaced people. The experience deepens her understanding of her new home and her place in it. Back at the boarding house, a new, socially awkward girl named Dolores arrives, and Mrs. Kehoe tasks Eilis with taking her to the weekly parish dance. Eilis, having had enough of Dolores's grating personality, decides to join Patty and Diana. Patty helps her with her hair, a simple act that transforms her from a plain country girl into a confident young woman. At the dance, a handsome, dark-haired young man with a winning smile catches her eye. His name is Tony Fiorello, and unlike the other boys, he's not Irish, he's Italian. He's charming and sincere, and when he asks her to dance, something inside Eilis shifts. He walks her home, and their conversation is easy and natural. He confesses he came to the Irish dance specifically because he likes Irish girls. A romance quickly blossoms. With Tony, the gray, lonely world of Brooklyn explodes into color. He takes her to the movies, they eat in diners, and she finds herself talking more than she ever has in her life, pouring out stories about her sister and her ambitions to become an accountant. Her homesickness vanishes, replaced by the giddy excitement of falling in love. Her transformation is so complete that Miss Fortini remarks, "Where did that miserable little mouse go?" Eilis, realizing it for the first time herself, replies, "The homesickness has gone." Tony invites her to meet his family for dinner. The Fiorello household is loud, warm, and loving, a stark contrast to her own quiet home. Tony's little brother, Frankie, cheekily announces that they don't like the Irish, but the teasing is good-natured. At the end of the night, Tony tells her he loves her. The sudden declaration frightens her, but after a few days of uncertainty, she finds him after her night class and tells him she feels the same way. Her life in Brooklyn is finally hers. She is excelling in her studies, she is confident at work, and she is deeply in love. She writes to Rose, telling her that for the first time, she feels she has a life in America. This newfound happiness is shattered by devastating news. Father Flood appears at Bartocci's to tell her that Rose has died suddenly from an illness she kept secret. The world Eilis has carefully built collapses. Her grief is compounded by guilt for having left, for having been happy while her sister was sick. Tony is her rock, offering quiet, steadfast support. He tells her that if she wants to go home to be with her mother, he understands, but he's terrified she won't come back. "Home is home," he says. Eilis replies, heartbroken, "I'm not sure I have a home anymore," but she knows she must go. Before she leaves, Tony asks her to marry him. "Because if we don't, I'll go crazy," he says, his fear palpable. They marry in a simple, secret ceremony at City Hall, two solitary figures making a profound promise. Their wedding night is spent with a kiss on her doorstep before he goes home. Eilis is returning to Ireland, not as the girl who left, but as a married woman, a secret she carries with her across the ocean. Eilis returns to Enniscorthy a changed woman. She is more sophisticated, her clothes are brighter, her hair is styled differently, and she carries herself with a confidence that turns heads. Her reunion with her friend Nancy is joyful, but also complicated. Nancy is engaged to George Sheridan, and her wedding is scheduled for just a week after Eilis is meant to return to America. Her mother, frail with grief but still subtly manipulative, insists she stay. Eilis finds herself being pulled back into the life she thought she'd left behind. Nancy sets her up with Jim Farrell, a kind, handsome local man from a good family. Unlike the Rugby boys, Jim is thoughtful and sincere. He's looking for a life beyond the town, just as she was. An unexpected connection forms between them. At the same time, the local mill, where Rose used to work, offers Eilis a part-time bookkeeping job. Suddenly, Enniscorthy is no longer a place of limitation, but a place of opportunity. She has a good job, a potential suitor, and her mother, who needs her. The life she could have here is comfortable, familiar, and appealing. She postpones her return ticket, and the unopened letters from Tony begin to pile up in her drawer. The two worlds and the two men who represent them are pulling her in opposite directions. She stands at Rose's grave, confessing her turmoil. "I could be happy with Jim here, at home," she whispers, "and I could be happy with Tony in America. I know that too." She is paralyzed by the choice. Her hand is forced by the one person who has always represented the town's suffocating nature, Miss Kelly. Summoned to her old employer's dusty flat, Eilis is met with a smug smile. Ms. Kelly reveals that her cousin in Brooklyn saw Eilis at the registry office. She knows Eilis is married. The threat is unspoken but clear. She can ruin Eilis's new life in Ireland with a single piece of gossip. In that moment, the fog of indecision clears. Eilis looks at this small, bitter woman and realizes what she has to do. She stands, her voice steady and clear. "I'd forgotten what this town is like," she says. "My name is Eilis Fiorello." She walks out, leaving Ms. Kelly stunned. Her choice is made. She goes home and tells her mother the truth, a painful, tearful confession that is also a farewell. Her mother, heartbroken but understanding, says goodbye. On the ship back to America, Eilis encounters a young, terrified girl making the same journey she once did. Seeing her own past in the girl's eyes, Eilis offers her the same practical advice Georgina once gave her. She has come full circle. The final scene shows Eilis waiting on a sun-drenched Brooklyn street. Tony emerges from a building, his face open and full of love. He sees her, and his worried expression breaks into a radiant smile. As he runs across the street, she opens her arms to him. She knows now where her life is. She is home. Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious, stay awesome, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more amazing content.